Hello, everyone. It's about time we got to this franchise, but why are we starting with the last one, apparently, so far in the series? It's because I don't really have a lot of the Ratchet games on me at the moment, to be perfectly honest with you. And most of the port jobs on like PS3 and PS4 are not particularly good.
Also, we've never really cared about game order for whatever reason, so who cares?
Yeah.
Ratchet and Clank ripped apart.
I know exactly one thing for sure about this franchise, but I don't see it. What's the innuendo in the title?
Um,
There really isn't one. They've
Oh,
they've sort of scaled back on that some. I think they realized that it was just becoming too much of a pain to retitle everything in Europe.
yeah. Well, that and all the games after Tools of Destruction have a very different tone to their story. They're more like straightforward fantasy space adventures now, whereas before that, with Deadlocked and Up Your Arsenal and all those, they were like satire, straight satire. So, I guess shifting to more straightforward titles also fits shifting to more straightforward stories, you know?
okay.
Yeah, there was only so much satire you could do before it's like, okay, you either have a point or just ignore it
Well,
altogether, I guess.
I mean, they had a point, but
Yeah. D- d- yeah.
it's more like, I guess they, ironically, once they broke into the mainstream, they started to lean into being a mainstream consumer product, which is funny because the thing that they were, satirizing was mainstream consumerism. So, oops. But
I mean, there's room for both. There's still plenty of humor and satirical elements in this, so.
there's comedy, but that's not necessarily the same thing as satire. Well, I'm saying that mostly with my experience with the previous modern Ratchet games. For all I know, maybe this game does do a better mix of both. I do like this character though, from what I've seen.
Okay, so now if you follow the channel, you know that I didn't grow up with a PlayStation at all, so I didn't have much exposure to the PlayStation platformers. But out of all of them, Ratchet and Clank is probably the one that I've always been most intrigued by, and the one that I think I would enjoy playing the most. It's just that Ryan was talking about this before. There hasn't been a modern collection or port of them that people have recommended to me. I know that the PS3 port is fine, but has some issues. I don't think they're even on PS4 for the old original trilogy games, and then the remake is very
Ooh, the remake.
yeah. I hear not the best things about that.
I won't go into huge detail. Gaming Brit's video on it is comprehensive enough. It's also feature length, like literally a movie. So, but it's missing levels, and the story is a movie tie-in. So it's bad.
The poor Ratchet and Clank movie. Oh, that poor movie.
It's not a good story, and it's not done any favors by the fact that they have to awkwardly cut to movie clips. So, it kind of feels
by
like
not
a
a good
patchwork.
story. Do you think that you mean the first game's story doesn't hold up very well?
No, I mean it's not the first game. It is a completely different story.
Oh.
It follows like the very most basic framework, but Ratchet's characterization is completely
It
different.
doesn't even do that, really. It follows the framework of the movie where Ratchet wants to be a space ranger and he joins the Space Rangers, and that has, fucking nothing to do with what happened in the original movie. The only, plot element that comes from the original game is the evil corporate alien who wants to build a planet by taking apart other planets. But that sort of gets sidelined because we get a hijacked by Ganon element at the end. And Dr. Nefarious comes in 2 games early for some reason. I'm not really sure what they were thinking.
Hey, Dr. Nefarious is the Joker of the series, so.
This is... Wait, hang on. We're doing the whole Ratchet is like a big goddamn hero thing again.
Well, mostly because I think this is a Before the Future series game.
Is it?
Wait, really?
I think so,
Okay, so
yeah.
hold on. I know that there's the Ratchet and Clank trilogy, and then there's the Future series, which is like the second trilogy.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and this is, I believe, Before the Future.
So
Future
this is
trilogy.
like after they first defeated Dr. Nefarious in Ratchet 3.
I think so. I'm not entirely sure. It's been a long time since I've played some of the games. So
Maybe
I can't
it's
say for sure.
maybe it's after Deadlocked. Either way, that's interesting. I'm not going to complain.
I'm guessing in the Future series, they go to the future, and then
It's weird.
It's more that they kind of shoehorn themselves into. I mean, they kind of back themselves into a corner on some plot points.
Oh yeah, like okay, Ratchet here is a Lombax who's never seen another Lombax except that one that we forgot about when we were writing the games because, yeah. So
And then we pretend she wasn't a Lombax at all.
wait, what?
Okay, so-
let's just forget that character doesn't exist.
okay, in Ratchet 2, Ratchet meets a female member of his own species. Like he's going to. Oh wait, this means
Like
that-
Crystal from Star Fox. Okay.
This means
Go
that
on.
this game introduces another one. So this means that he's actually met two Lombaxes before
Lombi?
that. But like basically the Lombaxes are some super special extinct race, and Ratchet finds out 5 games into the series that he's the last of his species, which should have been a thing that came up a little sooner if he's never seen another of his own kind before. But this is part of their whole pivoting to a more like fantasy adventure genre kind of story. And it got weird when the little robot guy who popped out of the bad guy's factory in the first game turned out to be like destined to be some magic timekeeper thing.
Good. Yeah, he's best friends with the plumber.
It's it all gets
It gets weird.
yeah. Tell me though, Ratchet's characterization, is it like back to what it was in the main series?
More or less. He's a bit of a goody-good in this game, but he's also coming off of like 3 games of development. So
Yeah. I mean, like if he's coming off the back end of 3, then he has room to be like more honorable than he started, because that was kind of the lesson he learned in 2.
Yeah, he's a bit of a goody-good. He obviously they get separated early on in this game, so his shtick is a little bit that he's just kind of lonely without Clank. He is like the least important character of the main 4, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, so
So he feels a tad superfluous story-wise.
well, he has to be there because his name's in the title.
Yeah, so it's not that he's a bad character. He's just not particularly important as far as like story and lore goes. He's here to be a hero, and he's good at that. So
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that like because there's the girl Lombax that they had in all the trailers and stuff, and then Clank. And who's the 4th person? Is it who's his face?
no, basically, we meet another robot who's basically the other dimension's Clank.
Oh, okay. Oh, I love the balloons with Ratchet on them. They're cute. He's like,
They even remembered our nerd friend.
I like opening up on this like whole like festival parade float thing, because like, okay, we're probably not back in consumerist satire territory, but this is a good nod to that, because like Ratchet being a big goddamn hero and letting that go to his head was a major thing in 2. And it basically led to a whole bunch of trouble. So, revisiting that, but, with a better head on his shoulders, kind of, helps highlight how far he's come since the beginning. Even if
I can
like,
only really think of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man though, seeing all the parade balloons, because that's where my cursed brain is at these days. I will also. This game's only on PS5, right?
Yes, this is one of the few true PS5 exclusives, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
It is very pretty.
it makes heavy use of the solid state drive for its mechanics specifically. The reason it's called Rift Apart is because there are these rifts that, just immediately go to other areas with like zero load time whatsoever. And
it's extremely impressive.
yeah, it would not be possible on previous systems because they didn't have solid state drives. And, it's not something that I think they would develop for PC in general yet, because solid state drives are kind of a luxury on PC, and you can't really assume everyone's got one when you develop your games, But because they're making this for the PS5, everyone has a solid state drive in their PS5. It comes standard. So they can really lean into that when they're designing their games. And here's one of the games where they do that. And it's good that they did that because, Ratchet is one of those series that gets homogenous because there are so many entries. And that leap forward really helps alleviate that problem.
One thing I will say, just like as a little like small detail things, in a lot of games where there's destructible objects, the things blow apart and then the stuff like fades away or disappears or blows off screen, but like the bits of the crates and stuff are still on the ground and like they stay there, and then they don't cause massive frame rate issues whenever you touch them because there's too much physics going on. So I don't know. I'm always baffled by graphics whenever we do a modern game that's not on a Nintendo potato hardware. Because it's like, ooh, pretty. This is honestly part of why Ratchet seems really fun to me, is just that the gameplay seems so much faster than something like Jak and Daxter,
well,
from what I've seen.
From Ratchet 2 onward, you would be right. Ratchet 1 didn't have this... It didn't have this strafing and flip jumping stuff yet. They hadn't fine-tuned the shooter mechanics. I will say that Ratchet 1 makes up for it in its level design, though. I feel the level design in Ratchet 1 is at its strongest.
Yeah. To talk about 1 a little bit in the series, obviously Ratchet was heavily inspired by the Agent 9 parts of Spyro 3.
Yes.
Which is what they were basically developing for. Ratchet 1 is the very awkward middle ground between that Agent 9 sections in Spyro 3 and what Ratchet would become from 2 onward.
Well, I that makes sense. If only there were a game where with Ratchet 1's level design, but later games' combat mechanics.
It's too bad they never made one of those.
I know, right? Man, that sucks.
It's one of those things, to your point earlier, Ted, that Sly is meant to be slower because it's primarily a cartoon stealth game.
Yeah, exactly. Like
which is fine. Jak and Daxter I don't think is nearly as slow as you're making it out to be. The problem with Jak is that they haven't made one, a real one since the PS2 that could benefit from beefier hardware.
Yeah, that is true. I've only really seen a lot of the first one in action when we did the commentary for that. God, how long ago did we do the commentary for that? Like
a long time ago, and I'm getting the Jak 2 relatively soon.
Jak and Daxter 1 is not very representative of the Jak series as a whole because 2 and 3 are so different. But I will say Jak 2 has some excellent level design throughout. So
yes, it does.
If you're willing,
everyone harps on like it's so angsty and dark. It's like if that's true, it's definitely the tone of the game. But as far as the gameplay itself goes, it's very good.
The Jak series' story has not aged well. I'm going to say that. It was interesting, very interesting for the time, but boy, is it early 2000s. This is Dr. Nefarious, by the way.
Hi, Joker of the series.
For some insane reason that I cannot comprehend, he's the favorite villain of the series among the fan base, and so he's been returning in, like, everything ever since. I don't like him.
Isn't he, like, playable in one of the games, too?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
In the online multiplayer-focused game.
I don't like Dr. Nefarious because, like, he shows up at a really awkward point in the series where the game design is kind of lackluster because Ratchet 3 was kind of rushed. And he doesn't really fit with the rest of what Ratchet's 1 through Deadlocked was doing with its story. But he's got some funny lines, I guess. And
he's just an amusing character overall, but they do overuse him a little bit. I do love, during that transition there, it's like, a lot of games will try to do the whole cinematic thing and then transition to gameplay, like right there where we were playing and now it's here. I can't tell where the gameplay in the movie file begins. I guess it's technically not a movie file, but it's like where the cinematic actually begins. Because normally you can tell when that happens.
Well, I like how seamlessly they're blending the two here, because like a lot of games do try to like mix the two, especially in the Uncharted, Tomb Raider 2013 over-the-shoulder action genre. But
yeah, but it's like when it transfers back to gameplay, you can usually tell when that happened because suddenly textures are a little bit worse, things like that.
Was Insomniac the developers that made this game?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I feel like there's a lot of Spider-Man happening there too, because that was a big thing in Spider-Man as well. In that, you're in a cutscene and now it's gameplay.
Well, it takes some top-tier directing in a cinematic sense to get cinematics and gameplay to mesh that way while looking seamless but not confusing the player. Like, okay, I'm thinking back to Resident Evil 2 Remake, and I didn't have trouble being chased by the giant alligator, but I seem to remember one or two of you guys, while we were commentating, talking about how, like, you didn't know what you're supposed to do the first time the alligator started chasing you. And I pointed to, like, the camera that it was tilting in a certain direction, and that signaled to me that I had to run in a certain direction, but apparently not everyone got that. That's the kind of confusion that I'm talking about.
Also, hi, Zim.
Is this? Hold on. Is this just Gur's voice?
No, it's Zim. It's Richard Horvitz.
It's Zircon. Okay, so
it's not. Okay, so I will say he did a better job at not being just Zim. As if you've ever played the Skylanders games, the bad guys in those are literally, or if you've ever played Destroy All Humans, like the set, not the main character, but like his helper guy. That's also just Zim's voice.
Okay,
as well.
So in this series, there are certain weapons that sort of become in-franchise memes, and the Zircon weapons are one of them. So is the Boogie Ball. But, like, the Zircon line of weapons is this robot that sort of spawns and follows you around. That vendor is based on Mrs. Zircon, though, who made her debut in the remake. And it was, like, one of the only good ideas that game had.
Is the remake canon now? A game theory.
One of the later bosses in the remake was this giant Zircon robot called Mrs. Zircon. That would have been a fantastic boss if they didn't put a shop that you could refill your ammo on from in the middle of the boss arena for some reason.
Well, I guess that's the joke, because you're fighting the ammo shop person as a boss fight.
Yeah, but like when you effectively have as much ammo as you can afford with your end game bursting at the seams wallet, there's no reason to try, and the boss just becomes
you just use the best weapon you have, refill, keep using
it. But you know, if they hadn't done that, it would have been a fun boss fight. So like it's like it was such a fun concept, and they ruined it. I'm glad to see it like get a nod here, though. Because
in terms of like this game, I know that one of the big appeals of Ratchet is that you have like 50 bajillion weapons. So is ammo shared across weapons, or does each weapon have its own ammo?
No.
Each weapon has their own ammo.
Yeah, each weapon has their own ammo. And ever since Ratchet 2, the weapons have this level up system attached to them where they get stronger as you use them, which is a bit of a double-edged sword, because it means like you're heavily encouraged to stick with one weapon until you level it up. Whereas in Ratchet 1, you just had the weapons and you had their ammo, and you could switch between as the situation dictated, rather than hamstringing your own success by sticking with the weak weapon, because it's a couple hundred shots from leveling up and you just want to get the bar full. So, you know, ups and
But I
downs.
guess the idea is that when you run out of ammo for one weapon, you're supposed to switch to the
Switch
next
to
one.
the other.
So
Yeah. And the
theoretically,
games
then
generally do that.
everything
So.
stays fairly balanced on levels.
One thing that you want to, well, I never really found myself running that low on ammo in Ratchet 2, so it never really became a problem. But like, it does help to switch between weapons as you go, so that you know, you never run out of ammo on any particular weapon, and you're always getting ammo for all your other weapons as you kill things. You know,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's not a resource management intensive game, but you do have to think about it.